here it is. My final thoughts, reviews, conclusions regarding the Case Maxxum 125. This is a nice tractor, and you'll have to excuse me doing this review in the shade because it's just too damned hot out there. So, I've only done 20 miles in this. I only had one load of stuff to do. I don't have any work on the field to do. It would be nice if we'd had a bit of rain. I could have put the topper on, maybe done a bit of topping, done a bit of field work, but with the state of the ground out there, I just don't want to drive on it. So you're going to have to settle for what I've worked out from 20 miles and a couple of days. So first things first, Dan, thank you very much for letting CFM borrow your tractor, and as a mark of gratitude I'm sending it back with a couple of goodies. So make sure that these are still in the tractor when you get it back. Sit, biscuit, sit. Okay, Case 125 Maxxum. This is home from home for me. Everything in this cab, almost everything, is completely identical to everything in the cab of my old MXU 100. In fact, it is the same cab. It is exactly the same cab. All of this is identical to that tractor. All of that, and down there, identical to that tractor. Almost all of this, if you work from there that way, apart from that handle being a different shape, all that is identical to that tractor. This, apart from that button, is identical to that tractor. So I already know my way around this. I kind of already know that everything in here works. Number 3 spool valve I know is used for the pickup hitch for the push out hitch. 1 and 2 are your auxiliaries for whatever else you want to do. If I was to put a front linkage on this, because Case have offered, or sorry, CFM have offered to take the linkage off of my MXU, because it's the same tombstone on the front of that tractor as on this one. In fact, it's the same engine. Yep, this is the same engine as that little tractor there. It's just got a few more bits of wizardry about it, probably a bigger turbo, tuned slightly differently, and ECU controlled differently. But other than that, same block, same head, the same. This tractor and that tractor are closer than cousins. They're basically brothers. Okay, this is little brother because he was born later. He's just bigger than big brother. I know what I mean. So everything in the cab I know. Everything in here I know how it works. The ventilation system's moved. It's now up here. On mine it's over there. That's pretty much the only thing that's changed. The only other difference between this cab and mine is mine's got a little bit of a stain there. Other than that, they are identical. The ride. This is leaps and bounds more comfortable than my tractor, okay? But then my tractor has no cab suspension whatsoever, unless you count about 1 centimetre of rubber either side of a bung that's bolted to the chassis. And it's rigid. There is no cab suspension on that tractor. There is no front axle suspension on that tractor. Everything is literally pinned, and apart from a tiny layer of grease between the pin and the hole, that's it. The front axle of that is mounted to the tombstone of the front of the tractor, and that's it. So the only suspension in the little MXU is controlled by the tyre pressures. Okay, hence the reason it's not a terribly brilliant ride. This fellow, on the other hand, has front suspension. So all that front axle down there floats around on damped rams. You can actually watch the whole thing floating. It works. The cab sits on pivots at the front, but on the back it's got like giant McPherson struts, which is the same as you'd have on the front suspension of most cars. So the whole cab, the chassis and everything else of the tractor can be jumping about all over the place, but the cab and the engine bay, smooth. That was half of my problem, and half of the thing that I wanted was a more comfortable ride. This thing will definitely give it me. So pretty much everything on this thing is positive, a plus. My daughter does not like driving my MXU because it's a manual 4-speed gearbox with 3 ranges. You've got high, medium and low range. This fella, you've only got high and low because you've got far more ranges actually on the gears. And to change gear in this, even Abby can do that, my daughter, up a gear, down a gear. And if you want to change the range, you just press that button down there and one of these down the range, and that's it. And even my daughter could do that. This chap here is not a gear lever, it is the throttle. Okay, faster, slower. I know you know, but there will be a few that don't. That is kind of the only real difference in this tractor is the gearbox. So I have got a much simpler gearbox, which anybody could use, and up to like 55 horsepower. So it's about 50% more powerful than that on full boost. And comfortable. But what you've got to ask yourself is, or what I have to ask myself is, for me to acquire this tractor, not this particular one because this belongs to Dan, all right, this is yours, Dan. For me to acquire a tractor like this, I have to give them my tractor and another £50,000, give or take a couple of grand. And I have to work out that is that extra power and a bit of comfort worth the equivalent of, let's say, £70,000. That's basically what it's costing me. The value of that, plus what I got to pay for this, about 70 grand. Book value on this is about 109, 110, something like that. So they have knocked quite a lot off, but it's still 70 grand. And it is, it's not just a case of, oh, I'll get my checkbook out and I'll write a check for 70 grand. I'd have to borrow that over the next 5 or 6 years. And I have to really work out as, is it worth it? Down here, heart's going, oh yeah. And down there, my arse is going, oh yeah, it's definitely worth it. But my head's going, that's an awful lot of money to tie up for the next 5, 6 years. So it has to be thought of very carefully. So, would I buy this tractor anyway? No. I've driven it, I've enjoyed it, I like it. And if I had larger implements, bigger trailers, bigger toppers, bigger mowers, bigger grass cutting machinery, it would probably make it a bit more worthwhile. But to be honest, all of the machinery I have for this farm fits that tractor, and it looks right on that tractor. It's the right size for that tractor. If I bought this at being 50% bigger, all the implements I've got will look blinking ridiculous. So I would be compelled, if I bought this, to start looking at bigger hedge trimmer, bigger trailers, bigger mower, just bigger stuff. So it doesn't stop at the 70 grand that I have to find for this. You end up spending another £50,000 to uprate all your kit. Then all of a sudden it becomes nowhere near as affordable. So I know George has said that that is no problem. He can supply me with all the equipment and kit to fit this, and it'll look right and it'll sit right and it'll work perfectly. But yeah, there's a price. There's a price. So, do I like the tractor? Yes, I like it a lot. It would do everything I wanted to do. Comfortable, it's powerful, it's simple. Yeah, it would suit me down to the ground. If I had bigger kit to put on it. So conclusion. I'm glad I tried it. I mean, when I tried it up at CFM, it didn't feel that massive. It felt okay. I had the loader on it and it was all right. But coming around the farm, okay, it has got a tighter turning circle than my MXU 100, which surprised me. It is quite nimble for a big tractor, but it is too big for this place. I think I need to go down a size. And I think in the case range, the only thing that kind of suits me is going to be something along the lines of the Vestrum 130. Problem with that is, I think that only comes with a CVT gearbox, which makes it quite a expensive tractor. And I think it's going to price it out of my range. So as much as I would like to stay with case, if I change my tractor for a brand new one, I reckon I'll struggle. I think if I want to stay with case, either they've got to pull a rabbit out of the hat on a tractor that is the right size and does everything I want to do, a bit smaller. I looked at the Maxxum, but it's a much smaller engine there. It's like a litre smaller almost. And I like having that, I just like having that slightly bigger engine. So Maxxum's out. So yeah, this is too big. Vestrum would be about the right size, but I think because that's aimed at, what should I say? It's more like the vegetable growers, no, the cabbage growers, the leek growers, and that sort of stuff. With that gearbox, it's designed for a much wider range of motion, of power, and everything else that you don't need on the farm. And I think it outprices it for what I want to do. So, yeah. Sorry, George, I don't think I'm going to buy one of these tractors. I'd like to. I just can't afford to buy all the kit to go on the back of it.